Every project has been perfect from start to finish. From color selection to the bid, the work, the cleanup, CertaPro painters always crush it. Schedule a free estimate right now at CertaPro.com. That's Certa with a C. It's a great time to knock an indoor project off your to-do list, and it's never too early to think about getting exterior work done like I am this year. You know all about our KC weather. Cold, snowy, icy, big rainstorms, hot summers. It all puts pressure on your paint job. Your home should be a sense of pride for you, and CertaPro painters can help you keep it looking great. Each CertaPro painter's business is independently owned and operated. They're local, so they've got that sense of pride to keep our community beautiful. Their attention to detail is top-notch. CertaPro painters do both residential and business work. It's all the same website, CertaPro.com. There's a bunch of great info on there as well about all of their different services. That's CertaPro.com for CertaPro painters for your home or business.
As a pro athlete, I understood how devastating an injury could be. Injured athletes need staff that played the sport and understand the rehab process. Those professionals and that place is Boost Physical Therapy and Sports Performance. At Boost, you'll find state-of-the-art training equipment, a full indoor volleyball court, and a spacious turf training area. You can sign up for classes or clinics or schedule your rehab appointments. Just visit boostkc.com. With 5 locations in the metro, Boost Physical Therapy and Sports Performance has you covered from the point of injury to the field of play.
Kansas City's hometown sports station. Sports Radio 810 WHP Kansas City.
America's largest all-sports radio station presents the #1 motorsports show for over 2 decades, Track Talk, brought to you by Rod End Supply and the Power Ride Midwest Lightning Sprints. Here are the racing boys, Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Track Talk here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We have got a great show lined up for you today. We've got a lot of sound bites to get through. We've got Ryan Timms, Ben Shelton, Landon Crawley, Donnie Schatz, Carson Macedo, David Gravel, Logan Schuchart, Sheldon Hodenshield, and Gio Scelzi as well. And that was during the press conference they had yesterday, right, Kirk?
They had media day for the World of Outlaws this week down at the media room at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and all the drivers from both the late models and sprint car series showed up wearing their driver suits.
Right.
As they sat there and answered questions. So we got some pretty good sound bites from some of these drivers. And
who do you think the best sound bite is from?
I think Donnie Schatz.
Right.
Here's a guy that's won 10 World of Outlaw championships, and he's trying to beat Steve Kinser for the all-time, but that's not going to happen.
Right. Because
Steve Kinser has 20 World of Outlaw championships.
Donnie's he's only got 10, right?
Yeah, but he talks like a guy that he's ready to go to battle and win another championship this year. So some pretty interesting sound from him, as well as Carson Macedo and some others. So we'll play that during the course of the show.
Do you want to play that Donnie Schatz right now?
Well, we can play one of the bites right now
if
you'd like. I know that we've got a lot to get through here today. Let's hear his mindset right now as he heads in to a brand new season, which begins next Wednesday down at Volusia Speedway Park for the Dirt Track Nationals. And here's what Donnie has to say about being a competitor. And he doesn't talk like a guy that's ready to quit anytime soon.
28 years, I sat as a kid in the grandstands watching sprint cars, and I became a sprint car fan. Because of my father and family business, I was able to race a sprint car and get to the World of Outlaw level. And I've worked hard at trying to get to the top tiers, and I've been there, but I feel like I've also been at the bottom of them too. And the work ethic on both sides is the same. You work just as hard to be not where you want to be as where you want to be. I'm a competitive person, but I think it goes back to I've been around a long time and I've worked hard to get here. I've worked hard to build the Donnie Schatz brand that it is today amongst the fans and the other racers. And I think I've earned a level of respect with the other racers and the fans that from the loyalty that I have, and that's what keeps me going. The competition is what ultimately you can lay the answer to. When you want to be with a race of the Outlaws or you want to race a national series, you better be competitive. If not, you're going to learn to be competitive, but you're a competitive person, just in general. And so you set out to win a World of Outlaw race, you do. You set out to win a championship, you do. But that doesn't mean that you're complete. You're not whole. You're not done. It's the competition. That's what keeps you here every day. That's what brings you back every day. That's why when we leave the racetrack every night, whether it's a win or it's a 20th in a DNF, you're still motivated to come in the next day because you're going to compete again. And that's what it is. The competition is unpredictable. So that's why I'm here, because I don't have anything to prove. It's because I want to prove I'm competitive. It's what drives me. It's who I am. And that's not going to change whether I've won one race or 500 races. It doesn't define who you are. The competition really does.
Right.
Well, he proved last year he could still win races at Lakeside Speedway. Last October, he beat David Gravel, outran him at the end to win that feature. And, he won the King's Royal last year, so he can still prove he can win races.
He only won 4 races last year,
yeah.
Kirk.
The consistency's been the big problem. And a lot of it has to do with the Ford engine program.
Right.
Some of that program is pretty solid, but
if you were to talk to Donnie Schatz privately, I would think that Donnie Schatz would tell you that he would love to have the Chevrolet motors back in his car.
Well, I don't know about that because some of the comments that he made yesterday, they did a lot of testing at Charlotte after the World Finals. And he feels like they've found a lot of the problems that they've been having. And he, after that test session at Charlotte, he feels a lot better about heading into the new season and about pinpointing some of the problems that they were having with that engine program.
Do you have some sound from that interview?
I don't have that part.
Right.
But he did talk about that.
Ford's
test session was very important to his mindset heading into the new season.
Do you think Donnie Schatz can win another championship?
I do.
I do too.
I think so.
I think this is the year that he can do it because, Brad Sweet is gone and there's several other drivers that are going to take off and go run with the High Limit Series. And oh, by the way, just so you know, each and every week on Monday, we are going to have Connor Wade, who is the pit reporter for the World of Outlaws, and then we're going to have Chase Rodman, who is the voice of the High Limit Series. They're going to be on with us every week, starting on when is that going to start, Kirk? Volusia.
Well, next weekend.
Next weekend.
Will be the World of Outlaws, and then the week after that, the High Limit Series opens at East Bay. So,
right, yeah.
It's kicking off pretty soon. But I think if you have to pick favorites to win the World of Outlaws title now that Brad Sweet is gone, I think you have to look at David Gravel and Carson Macedos. The two guys would have to be the favorites. And David Gravel talked about, a lot of what he had last year. He had a ton of second-place finishes, but there were a few races that he's not happy about, that he points finger at himself, that he caused them not to win was driver error. So he's very reflective in that regard.
Kirk, you know who I'm pulling for, don't you?
Yeah.
I'm pulling for Carson Macedo just because they live down by the lake. They're Missouri people, and I'm kind of pulling for them a little bit, right?
And they were kind of late making a commitment to the World of Outlaws this year because they lost a couple of crew guys off that team. Clyde Knepp was one of them.
Right.
And so they did find a couple of guys, but I asked Carson Macedo yesterday about the challenges of finding crew members to travel the full World of Outlaws series. That's a real challenge, but they found a couple of guys this year. But Carson talked about the big challenge for these teams to find crew members.
Yeah, I mean, I'm devastated with Brad moving on, to be honest with you. I think that it's a terrible thing. The crew guy situation on the World of Outlaw Tour seemed like it's really gotten tough here lately. I don't really know why that is, but maybe just because of the grind of the Outlaw Tour. And I think, it's just a tough life. It's hard. So many people this offseason, you couldn't believe that we couldn't find help, that we were struggling to find help. And it's like, well, it takes a lot for somebody to just uproot their entire life. For our team, they have to move to, Eldon, Missouri, which is, kind of a long way from most of the key areas in sprint car racing, whether it be Pennsylvania, Iowa, or, I say California, although there's a lot of, competition out there. That's not really a key area to be living in, probably Indiana, one of those central locations. So, not only do you kind of have to uproot your life and go live at the team house, but if you have kids or any kind of family, that becomes really tough. And then the commitment to just being away from your family at a lot of those key points in your life. We race on the weekends, so your weekends are full. You're not going to weddings. You're not going to certain events that kind of take place in your life that is really important to some people. So I think, on top of that, the local racing has gotten to a different level than it has been in the past. You could stay in Pennsylvania and run so many races. So I feel like a lot of crew guys have kind of migrated maybe to that dynamic a little bit. Like, for example, I know, buddy of mine, Heath Moyle, left the road not long ago and has been working for Brent Marks the last few years, and he gets to stay in his own bed most nights. So I think maybe some of that has to do with it. But it's definitely a tough thing to find, crew guys, and especially ones that have experience right now. So we ended up with a couple of really good guys, and we're kind of looking forward to training them up and, showing them how JJR does things and kind of molding them. I know Philip will kind of be molding them into the crew guys and the expectations that he has on any given night.
I think, Phil Dietz has obviously got a handle on everything that goes on at Jason Johnson Racing right now, but there could be some growing pains training up these new crew guys, don't you think?
Well, as you know, Kirk, I traveled 13 years up and down the road with the ASCS National Sprint Car Tour, and to be honest with you, at times we had problems keeping people out on the road as well, because it's such a grind, and doing it for 13 years, I just got burnt out on it, to be honest with you. And I decided to come back here and just do radio. That's what I decided to do. So
it's a different life. You're like a gypsy out there.
It's what it's more like, Kirk? It's more like being a carny.
That's what it is.
It's kind of like living the carny life, if you want to know the truth. Running from town to town, you got to tear down at night. When we did these broadcasts, we had to tear down at night and then maybe drive 200 miles to get to the next town. And it's kind of a gypsy life. No doubt about it.
The World of Outlaws even more so, because you're starting in February and you're ending in early November.
Well, and
you really don't have any time off.
They have 90 dates compared to the ASCS, which they only had 50 dates, right?
So some guys can be out on the road for 2, 3, 4 years, but after that, it starts to wear on people. And as Carson pointed out, there's a lot more options for a lot of these guys to work on race cars now.
On the local level.
Yeah. And now you got 2 traveling series, the High Limit Series and the World of Outlaws. There's more teams out there wanting to travel coast to coast.
You know what really has a positive effect on these local teams? When a guy goes out on the road and he learns a lot about what's going on the road as he travels around the country, when they come back to a local team, they are like a star with that team. They just learn so much when they're out on the road, and it's just I think it's just a learning experience that they can bring back to a local team. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's you do a lot of sightseeing in the first few years you're out there. You see a lot of things you haven't seen before.
A lot of sightseeing.
But after you've seen everything, if you traveled the same road year after year, you don't have anything more to see. So it's not as exciting and fascinating about year 5 as it was in year 1 or 2.
Hey, but to be honest with you, Kirk, we always found something to do out on the road. It didn't matter what it was. We always found something to do out on the road. Because we'd work on the weekends, and then we'd be off all week. And then we'd find things to do, man. It was just a great time out there on the road with the ASCS National Tour.
Well, as everybody knows, Brad Sweet won 5 straight World of Outlaws championship, and he and Kyle Larson started this high limit series. And Brad Sweet has taken the Napa 49 Casey Kane team off to run the full high limit series. And Carson Macedo and David Gravel are 2 of the guys that are going to be favorites to win the championships this year. But Carson Macedo's not happy that Brad Sweet is leaving to go high limit racing. A very interesting commentary from Carson Macedo about Brad Sweet taking off and going to the other series.
Yeah, I mean, I'm devastated with Brad moving on, to be honest with you. I think that it's a terrible thing. I don't really care that we were able to, have the opportunity to win more races. I mean, that's great, I guess, financially or whatever. But, the World of Outlaws is about beating the best. And so, right now I view Brad as the best. I mean, he's won the last 3 championships in a row or 5 championships in a row. And been, an incredible when all the, changes were going on, I was really kind of probably one of the few that was, really bummed out about it. I felt like there is, it's tough because it's bittersweet, but, Brad winning an Outlaw championship, there was times when I was having conversations with Brad where I said, how would you liked it if, you were, moments away from being as close as you ever have been anyway to having a shot at winning the championship, and then Donnie just left. Like, that wouldn't be real. You wouldn't really feel like that would be a real good thing. So there is more of an opportunity there to win more races. I do feel like there's an opportunity for a lot of people to capitalize on that change, but I, as a competitor, the competitor in me just doesn't think that it's, doesn't really like it. And I think ultimately too, like, the races probably aren't going to be as different as what a lot of people think. Like, for instance, we're going to go down to Volusia here in a week, and I think it'll probably be the toughest, field of cars that we've ever seen at Dirt Track Nationals, with so many guys kind of joining one series or the other. So I think that, just the competitor in me enjoys, wanting to beat the best every night. And that's what the World of Outlaws has been founded and built on for several years.
Since 1978, when they ran their first race at Devil's Bowl Speedway in 1978, the World of Outlaws has been the king of sprint car racing. Would you agree with that, Kurt?
Well, yeah, and I would say they still are until they're not.
Right.
But part of the commentary that Carson had about Brad Sweet is in the aftermath of that terrible accident at Knoxville last June. Brad Sweet was one of the drivers that reached into that burning race car to help Carson out of that race car.
Yep, no doubt
and
about it.
I don't think Carson Macedo will ever forget that.
No doubt about it.
So he's got a lot of affection for Brad Sweet, and you can kind of understand he's going to miss having him out there.
Who do you think is the favorite to win the championship this year? Is it David Gravel, Carson Macedo, Gio Scelzi, Logan Schuchart, or Donnie Schatz?
I think it's between David Gravel and Carson Macedo. With Donnie Schatz right there, you can't count Donnie Schatz out.
David Gravel finished 60 points out of the lead last year, and Carson Macedo was 168 points out of the lead. So those two got to be the odds-on favorites, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Gio Scelzi ran enough good races last year that you can
he
throw
could be
him
a player
the
in
mix.
there, yeah.
Logan Schuchart is the other driver from Shark Racing that he didn't have a lot of consistency in the back half of the year, but he's certainly a threat to win any race out there on the World of Outlaws Tour. It's just getting that consistency together to go the whole season. The big theme that they talked about yesterday, all these drivers talked about, They said you can't have bad finishes.
You got to average about a top 5
Right.
finish.
That's the key to Brad Sweet winning 5 in a row. He didn't have very many bad races, 1 or 2 the whole year,
His
and that's
typical
how he won the championship.
his typical average was around 5th place.
Yeah,
Right.
but he finished all those races.
Yep, no doubt about
There's
it.
only like a couple of, and that was the theme that all these drivers talked about. You have to finish every race.
I'm going to be pulling for Donnie Schatz, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I hope Donnie Schatz can get number 11. But he's not going to get to Steve Kinzer. There's no way, no chance that he's going to get to 20.
No.
No way.
That will stand for all time. Steve Kinzer's 20 championships.
Do you feel that Donnie Schatz is more motivated right now than
Absolutely.
ever?
No question.
Yeah, no doubt.
He's as motivated as he's ever been, and he feels good after that test that we talked about
Right, yeah.
at Charlotte going into the season that he can be more consistent with their engine program.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, more of Track Talk. It's all brought to you by Rod End Supply, featuring the POWRi Midwest Lightning Sprints. We've got tons of sound. Ryan Timms is going to be coming up next right here on Track Talk. Stay tuned for more right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
WHB Kansas City.
Rod End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial applications with many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circle track or drag strip, rock climbing, or going off-road, Rod End Supply has an assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products to keep your equipment moving. Rod End Supply's experienced staff is ready and willing to help you with your needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior service so you can stay in front of the field no matter what it is. To learn more, go to rodendsupply.com.
Don't miss all the great specials back at the Butcher Block at your neighborhood hen house. Fresh T-bone steaks, USDA Choice certified Hereford beef, just $8.99 a pound. Porterhouse steaks, $9.99 a pound. Atlantic salmon portions, they're 6 ounces, just $7 each. And let Hen House cook up a romantic Valentine's dinner for 2. Get an appetizer, salad, 2 entrees, 2 sides, 2 desserts, a French baguette, and a single red rose, all for just $49.99. Head to henhouse.com to place your order now. Hen House, serving Kansas City for over 100 years.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going back to the Super Bowl.
Sports Radio 810 WHB is headed to Las Vegas to bring you all the sights and sounds of Super Bowl 58. Tune in all week long as we hit the strip with your Kansas City Chiefs as they get set to take on the 49ers. Your home for the NFL playoffs and Super Bowl 58. Sports Radio 810 WHB.
I'm McCall with Lee Summit Subaru. Well, we did it. We've added even more incentives to buy from us. You already know that we have an exclusive lifetime warranty. Of course you do. And that your first maintenance is free. Well, we just added 0% for 48 months on the 2024 Outback. Yeah, we did that. And $2,500 customer bonus cash on the 2023 Subaru Solterra. Now that's why you'll fall in love with driving again at Lee Summit Subaru.
This service contract is not provided or backed by the manufacturer of the vehicle. The manufacturer of the vehicle is not responsible for the claims or repairs under this service contract.
What's got everyone talking?
That would be Talk of the Town Neighborhood Bar and Grill on 135th and Null and 119th and Quivira.
What's got everyone talking?
Everyone's talking about our daily specials, the best burgers and wings in town, great selection of beer and spirits. Oh, it's the dozens of TVs showing your favorite game.
That's what's got everyone talking.
This is Giannis, and now we're talking at Talk of the Town Neighborhood Bar and Grill.
Welcome back. It's Track Talk here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Covell back there at Sports Radio 810 running the show for us.
Along with Beckett as well.
Beckett as well. And Todd Surprise running the show for us here at RBN, the Racing Boys Broadcasting Network. And we had a chance to talk to Ryan Timms on Monday on Mostly Motorsports, didn't we, Kurt?
Ryan Timms is one of the young, great talents that we've seen in dirt track racing in quite some time and is really making a name for himself. Last weekend, he picked up the finale of the 360 shootout down at Volusia Speedway Park. And Monday, Mostly Motorsports, we visited with Ryan Timms about his big win last Saturday night.
I was shocked when you came from 5th, and you just flew by everybody up there, and you took the lead, and I just felt like at that point that you were the dominant car of the night. How'd you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree. Finding the bottom definitely helped, but even before I moved down to the bottom, I was reeling in Hafertepe and Peck on the top. But yeah, I mean, we had a really fast car. The big deal with running at Volusia is just being smooth and straight and not bogging the car down as much with it being a 360.
Right.
Which took me a couple nights to figure out, but once I got it figured out and we got the car better, I felt like unbeatable.
What were you thinking when that yellow flag came? You're coming down for the checkered flag, and you see that yellow.
Yeah, when I was going to lap that guy, I seen him slowing up a lot, and I assumed that something broke or he was just slowing down for whatever reason. But I was hoping he was going to pull in, and then I seen the yellow, and I was expecting it, but yeah, I was pretty frustrated. Literally right at the flag stand when they threw the yellow, so
right.
It was unfortunate, but I understand because I was the only guy that got past them, and the rest of the field still had to pass the stopped car, so I think it was the right call.
Did you feel like that at one point, because kind of Justin Peck, on those restarts, you kind of gapped yourself a little bit between him and yourself?
Right.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, when we first went green, I pulled him. I slowed down. My main deal was I knew I was faster on the bottom, but if I missed the bottom, then he would be able to, reel me in. And when we first went into 1 and 2, I made sure to slow down a little more than normal
right.
To hit the bottom. And then there on the white flag lap, I missed it a little bit, and he was able to reel me in just a tad, but I was running in wide open and getting into 3 and 4, sliding myself.
Right.
I knew it was fast enough, and I was taking up the whole track in 3 and 4 to where he most likely wasn't going to be able to get under me.
Right.
So it ended up working out.
Did the track take any rubber at all?
No. The track was really good. The first 2 nights, it was definitely bottom lane dominant. They would leave the bottom tilled up and wet throughout the whole night, and just they let us and the modifieds just gradually work down. And there for the first 2 nights, it kind of made it not as great a racing, but there on the last night, it was definitely still around the bottom, but you could run the top and make something happen or make something work. But I knew after I watched Hafertepe roll underneath me on the bottom the first night, I believe, and I knew that the bottom was going to come in again Saturday night, and I got down there, and sure enough, it was quicker to be down there.
Hey, were you surprised by Austin McCarl spinning out on that second lap? Were you a little taken back by that a little bit?
Yeah, I was very surprised. I knew he was going to be a hard guy to beat, so when I saw him spin, I was surprised, but I was also, it was a little bit of a relief knowing that it was just another heavy hitter that I didn't have to worry about, at least for the time being. And, it worked out.
He ended up, he started at the back of the pack, and he ended up running 4th. Mm-hmm. Were you kind of set back by that he ended up running fourth?
Yeah, no, I was. I expected Austin to come back up through there, but to come from last, which I don't know what that is, 20-something,
right,
to fourth at Volusia, in the 360 specifically, it's a lot harder. It gets really strung out and just hard to pass when you get back there in that dirty air. But Austin, he's real good on the half-mile stuff, especially places like Knoxville, so he knows how all the air works and how to get by them guys. But, yeah, he's a really good driver, and it didn't really surprise me to see him come back up through there. But I did expect him on the last restart maybe to show something, but he never did.
Volusia's got a wall down on the inside. How dicey is that, knowing you have to run the bottom? You got that wall on the inside.
Hey, listen, you came close to that wall a lot, man. You were really close to that wall. Tell us how close you were to it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I got about as close as you could to the wall without hitting it a couple times, but there wasn't as much grip down there as there was the first two nights, so if you wanted it to work, you had to be right up against it, which for me, I don't know, for whatever reason, it just wasn't a problem. I could put the left front right up against it and just leave just enough room to get around there quick, and but yeah, that wall, it's there, and I got into it a couple times. There was a couple times I had to kind of recorrect myself and steer away from it, because if I would have stayed where I was at, I would have hit it.
Yeah, no.
But, I was getting close to it.
Hey, so I got to ask you, I'm really good friends with Jimmy Jones, and I've been really good friends with him for a long, long time. What did Jimmy say to you after that race?
He just said I drove a perfect race, and we were just perfect in the main, and I agree, but it makes my job a lot easier when I got a car that's that hooked up. So Jimmy did a perfect job all night. After the heat race, we kind of had a stumbling problem, not really taking off. And so between the heat and main, Jimmy was in the trailer changing a whole bunch of stuff, and it ended up working out. So Jimmy knows his stuff for sure, and yeah, I mean, without him, it wouldn't have been possible. So big thanks to Jimmy.
So what does Jimmy do for you mostly? Is he a consultant? I know he puts the setup on the car, but is it mentally soothing for you as a driver to have Jimmy Jones as your crew chief?
Yeah, it definitely is. He builds all the cars in the shop. He puts them all together. He sets the car up, and knowing I have no doubt that the cars are going to stay together for however many laps the race is, for the whole race, and just knowing that you have a car that is fast and is going to stay together makes me a lot more confident in the car, and makes me drive the car a lot harder, and it's a lot better when you know you have good stuff that you're driving. So yeah, for sure, having Jimmy on the wrenches is a huge it's kind of I mean it's really a big advantage compared to everyone else that we're going against.
Right.
A lot of these guys they're just doing it themselves, or they got they're it's a family-owned team. They got their dad working on their car or whatever. But
Right.
to have a guy like Jimmy who's been around the sport forever, he worked with the Kinzers, Mark and Carl and Steve and all them, and just to have him who knows so much working on my stuff, it's a huge plus, and just it's great.
So just so you know, Jimmy Jones, the crew chief for Ryan Timms, He's got a lot of stories about the Kinsers. Have you ever heard of any of those stories, Kirk?
I have not. Why don't you share one with us here right quick?
Well,
what's the most memorable one?
I can't remember the most memorable one, to be honest with you.
You spent a lot of time with Kinsers.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's worth a whole show right there. We need to get Jimmy Jones on our show to help share some of those stories.
No doubt about it.
You got his number? Let's do it.
I've got him.
Yeah. Volusia Speedway Park's a really fast racetrack. We're going to see next Wednesday through Saturday when the World of Outlaws take to the track. And Donnie Schatz, I asked Donnie yesterday about Volusia and how he sees that racetrack, and they made a change in the wicker bill rule. It's now an inch wicker bill instead of the 2 inches on top of the wing.
Right. They can't put the 2-inch wicker bill back on there.
And that affects the airflow.
Oh, no doubt.
And with these wings on these sprint cars, that is a big deal.
It's a big deal.
And here's what Donnie Schatz had to say about Volusia Speedway Park next week and the new wicker bill rule.
It's very important to get off. We want to get a win right out of the box. It can really get you going down the right path. I remember seasons past, 6 weeks after the season started, we hadn't won yet when we got to Las Vegas, and it's not fun. if you're one that you want to see yourself winning and you're expected to win and you're just not there, it builds on you. It grows. It just kind of gives everybody kind of a lump in their throat like they got a cold that they don't want. So that's very important. Well, I'll probably get in trouble for this, but years ago, we had no wicker bills and we had dished wings. And everybody, for some reason, wanted to get rid of dished wings because they wanted to unhook the cars. And then they said, but you can have a 1-inch wicker bill. And I'm like, well, what's the difference? We went from dished wings with no wicker bill to a flat wing with a wicker bill to unhook the car. It did the same thing. The car drove not as good in dirty air or around other cars because with the wicker bill, all the weight carries on the wicker bill, not halfway across the wing or, pushing down on the front of the car. It hangs over the back. So it's like having 75 gallons of fuel in the tank versus 30. Then, for some reason, we end up with 2-inch wicker bills. I'm not sure where that came from, but my whole philosophy on the air is, what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to hook it up or unhook it? Because giving more wicker bill hooks it up harder. Taking wicker bill away unhooks it. And what can happen, and I think you see it, there's a lot of guys that race this way. You see the guys that run 2-inch wicker bills all the time. What happens is they get their car so dependent on air, so dependent on the wicker bills that if they do get behind another car, now they're in dirty air. They're dependent on absolutely having the maximum amount of air. Their car, they're like done. They completely lose control. They have no control where it's going, where it came from. And we all know that those same guys don't know that the gas pedal moves 2 directions. It's all the way down. So, I have an opinion on it. I'm glad to see them trying something, but I guess it's all about what the goal is. If they're saying we want to unhook the cars, I think it's the right move. If they say they want to see if it races different, I say it's the right move. But I guess we got to know or I hope they have a goal. I don't necessarily, it's not like they have to tell us what the goal is, but obviously I'm speculating that that's what the goals are, is to try to make the racing a little better and to unhook the cars at the same time.
He seems to think that there's another reason why the World of Outlaws came up with the wicker bill.
From that conversation that I just listened to, Donnie Schatz is not too happy about removing the 2-inch wicker bill. Did you feel that way?
I just think he's skeptical about if that's going to really solve the problem that Outlaws officials think that they have.
Kirk, what that wicker bill does, going from the 2-inch to the 1-inch, it's going to make the car a lot freer, and there's going to be more wrecks. I think that's the message that Donnie Schatz was sending out right there in that interview. That the message is, you're going to see more cars get wadded up because of the 1-inch wicker bill instead of the 2-inch. That's what I was taking from it.
And Donnie Schatz, even though he doesn't own this team, Tony Stewart does, he's been a team owner.
Right.
He knows the cost of everything. And Tony Stewart pretty much allows Donnie to run this race team the way he sees fit.
Right.
He's got the freedom to run it. So Donnie Schacht's talking like a owner more so than a driver there about what you just touched on. Wadding these cars up and the cost. Are we going to raise the cost of doing this because the cars are going to be more unstable now?
The only World of Outlaw race that we're going to see here this year is up at US 36, right?
In this area.
Right.
Yeah. And, of course, Knoxville is going to have 3 events this year.
Yeah.
But US 36, a couple of drivers touched on that yesterday. David Gravel pointed at US 36 when he didn't have a good night up there that early in the year.
Yeah.
He pointed at that race that may have cost him a chance at the championship.
Wow.
And he was pointing fingers at himself. He thought he made a driver error that night.
When we come back, we'll play that soundbite. Do you want to do that, Kurt?
I've got one sound, but yeah, we can play David Gravel. We got some other drivers to hear from as well.
Yep, no doubt about it. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, more of Track Talk here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. It's all brought to you by Rod End Supply, featuring the POWRi Midwest Lightning Sprints. We'll be back with more right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB in a moment. Stay tuned.
Many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circle track or drag strip, rock climbing, or going off-road, Rod End Supply has an assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products to keep your equipment moving. Rod End Supply's experienced staff is ready and willing to help you with your needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior service so you can stay in front of the field no matter what it is. To learn more, go to rodendsupply.com.
Hey, Soren Petro here. When you need brilliant, sparkling diamonds, go see my friend Gary Joslin and his family at Joslin's Jewelry. For 40 years, Gary has stood behind everything in his store, from thousands of small jewelry repairs to that once-in-a-lifetime engagement ring. Joslin wants to be your jeweler for life. That's why Joslin's is the jeweler you'll recommend to your friends and family. See him at 95th and Antioch, online at joslinsjewelry.com.
Joslin's Jewelry, for the best that's yet to come.
Over 35 years ago, Wholesale Batteries opened their doors and sold their first battery. Times have changed, but their commitment to customer service is the same. The commitment they made back in 1977 stays true today. Wholesale Battery is one of the largest distributors of motorcycle batteries in the country. Stop in for anything you need for your motorcycle. They also have you taken care of for all your lawnmower needs, laptops, ATVs, power sports, computer backups, cell phones, portable electronics. When it comes to batteries, these guys have it all. Call 913-342-0113 or at wholesalebatteries.net. The right battery the first time.
Hey folks, it's Todd Lebo here, once again for CertaPro Painters. CertaPro has been there for me over the years, inside and outside of my home, and I'm due for a paint job this spring, and I'm going to get on the schedule soon. Every project has been perfect from start to finish. From color selection to the bid, the work, the cleanup, CertaPro Painters always crush it. Schedule a free estimate right now at CertaPro.com. That's Certa with a C. It's a great time to knock an indoor project off your to-do list, and it's never too early to think about getting exterior work done like I am this year. You know all about our KC weather. Cold, snowy, icy, big rainstorms, hot summers. It all puts pressure on your paint job. Your home should be a sense of pride for you, and CertaPro Painters can help you keep it looking great. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated. They're local, so they've got that sense of pride to keep our community beautiful. Their attention to detail is top-notch. CertaPro Painters do both residential and business work. It's all the same website. CertaPro.com. There's a bunch of great info on there as well about all of their different services. That's CertaPro.com for CertaPro Painters for your home or business.
Hi, this is ESPN's Mike Greenberg, and ESPN Bet is now live. The official sportsbook of ESPN features daily exclusives and offers with your favorite ESPN shows and personalities like me. New users get $100 in bonus bets after making any sportsbook bet. Download the ESPN Bet app to sign up today. I'll see you there. ESPN Bet. What a play.
Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in partnership with Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
Welcome back. It's Track Talk here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Covell running the show for us back there at Sports Radio 810. Todd Surprise doing the same here at RBN, the Race Boys Broadcasting Network. Kirk, we've got a lot of sound that we want to run through here real quick, don't we?
Well, David Gravel is the other favorite to win the championship in the World of Outlaws this year. He got a ton of second-place finishes last year, but he talked about that first win of the season is big. Now, if you remember a year ago, he went down to Volusia and won a couple of prelim races down there. Started off the season great, and he had a good run at times and won a bunch of races in a row, and then things can kind of turn on you in the World of Outlaws.
No doubt.
Then you don't have as good a run. He talks about the ebbs and flows running the whole season in the World of Outlaws, and, you know, sometimes things are great and other times not so great.
Yeah, the hardest one is the first one of the year. You just never know when that could be. It could be the first race of the year. It could be 2 months in the year. It's not easy to win World of Outlaw races, and sometimes it feels like they're impossible to win. And then you get on a streak where they're almost easy. You get a good pill draw. The track's no passing. Cautions come out at the right times. You know, things like that happen. So it just goes in waves. Sometimes it's easy to win, and sometimes it's about impossible to win.
This thing that a lot of these drivers look at is you have to qualify well.
Qualifying is the most important thing.
It is a lot.
Right.
And a lot of these drivers talked about, if we just make the dash, we feel we've got a shot.
Right.
That's the goal early in the night, is get into that dash. And how you do that is you got to qualify well, and you got to finish either first or second in your heat race. Then you're in the dash, and then you know you're going to start up front. It's so competitive out there. If you're starting towards the back half of the field, you got no shot to win these races.
Right, no doubt about it.
And that's what Gravel was talking about. Well, Logan Schuart is another driver, and they've split up the Shark Racing team this year. Jacob Allen is going to be driving the 1A car in the High Limit Series this year. Logan Schuart is staying with the World of Outlaws. He's the $1 million man. He won the Eldora Million last year, which is not a World of Outlaws sanctioned race, but he walked out of there with the big prize money. That was his first big crown jewel event of his career. But Logan Schuart talked about preparing and getting ready to go for the whole season, and a little bit about the ups and downs of the World of Outlaws.
Last year was a little bit of a learning year with my guys. I had 2 new crew members with Lonnie Judy and Brendan Collum, and I don't feel like we, use them to their highest ability as far as, their capabilities. It took about halfway through the year until, we've always got along really well. We hang out, outside the racetrack, but for us all to work together and feel like we were really clicking well, it took about halfway through the year. So I look forward to a second year with those guys. I think they're a great group of guys, and are very passionate about sprint car racing and want to win. So fortunate to call them my friends and teammates, and like everybody knows, Shark Racing is a family operated operation. So I'm looking forward to chasing more success with my family.
That was kind of cool. You and I were there when Logan Schuart won that $1 million race out there at Eldora Speedway. That was cool.
That was pretty cool.
Have you seen a victory lane as wild as that one was that night?
Not near as wild as that one. That was a pretty wild one right there.
Yeah, I just said he just wasn't that consistent at the tail end of the year. It was kind of surprising that there was a lot of races in the fall that he didn't even run in the top 10. And so that's the way it is in this business. If you're off by just a little bit, you can be way off.
And we want to thank our friends from Liberty RV for loaning us that RV to go out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eldora, that was a fun trip last July. No Sheldon Hodenshield, he won at US 36 Raceway last year, if you remember.
Right.
And one of the most entertaining races that we've seen in the Outlaws. That was a cool race. That was the same race that David Gravel said he pointed to that was not a good night for him. But it was a great night for Sheldon Hodenshield, who, he's got a famous name. His dad, Jack Hodenshield, one of the great sprint car drivers of all time.
Right.
He's been at it long enough now to where he still says he's got a lot of room to grow, but you can only go on your name just for so long.
Right.
I think a name only goes so far, and I think we're at 30-something Outlaw wins now. So, I think you put the work in, and the success will come. And we're putting the time in. Year number 8 is a long time, and I was talking earlier. I still feel like I'm just getting going, and it takes a long time to learn how to win these races, let alone fight for championships. So I feel like we're getting to that stage where we can fight for championships, and we've been close in the past, and it's just putting the whole year together and kind of going from there. But I'm 30 years old, and I kind of tell everybody, once you hit 30 is when you kind of learn and get going, and that's what's different about our sport than any other. It's a lot of sports you're retired by 30, and I truly feel like this sport, you turn 30 and you're kind of just getting going.
Yeah, he looked at what his dad did. His dad won a lot of big races after the age of 30, so he was thinking, hey, I'm just hitting my stride right now. He didn't have all that great of a year last year. They tried some new things on that race car, and he said, we're going back to basics. We're going back to the old package. He's still got his same crew chief, Ripper. He says, we're just going to go back to basics next year because a lot of the things they tried in 2023 just didn't really work out all that well.
Right.
So the other driver that we spoke with yesterday is Giovanni Scelzi, and you got to know Gio pretty well. Great family. Gary Scelzi, the 4-time NHRA world champion. His brother is Dominic Scelzi, who races out on the West Coast, and Gio Scelzi, he had some great runs last year.
No
he
doubt.
showed a little bit of consistency at times, just not for the whole season. And I think you have to throw him into the mix in this championship.
I think he's
going to
be a championship contender.
I think so.
Right.
I think so. So here's Gio Scelzi talking about some of the goals he set.
I think 1 year under your belt's obviously different no matter how many sprint car races you've run. Same 2 guys change car chiefs, which really, as long as they do their job, we'll all be fine. So keeping the same crew chief means a lot. There's a lot of tough guys here, obviously, with Don and Gravel and Schuhart and stuff, Sheldon as well. They're all going to step their game up and feel like we almost kind of got away with one last year. I felt like Sheldon, Logan and Donnie kind of had some mediocre years, a lot of DNFs. But like I said, this is a season-long point series and something you have to finish races. So I felt like last year we had a lot of top 10s, finished almost every race, and just blacked in podiums and wins. So just capitalizing on those good nights when you do make the dash to stay running up front.
And they all said the way Brad Sweet won 5 straight championships is he just didn't fall out of races.
Just consistency.
You got to finish these races.
You gotta finish near the top 5 to have a chance to win the World of Outlaw Championship.
Yeah, if you go through a stretch races where you're just not qualifying well and you have to fight your way from the back and you start in the back half of the field, that's not going to get you championships. Brad Sweet won all those championships by qualifying well every night, finishing up high in the heat races, getting into the dash, and starting up front of the A mains every night.
Right, no doubt.
And that's how he won that championship.
Just so you know, on Monday on Mostly Motorsports, we are going to have Robert Ballou and Hunter Schoenberg on.
Always fun having Robert Ballou on.
Robert Ballou is one of the best interviews ever.
And the USAC sprint cars open up not next week, but the week after that, right?
He never minces words, Kurt, does he?
No.
Never.
Next weekend, the USAC sprint cars open up.
Right.
At Ocala Speedway. So we'll look forward to that.
We'll be talking to Robert Ballou about his Silver Crown ride that he's going to be doing.
That's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
And Hunter Schoenberg, they call him Hunter%. He got booted out of that Vermeer 55 car last year, and he was around different rides. He got into the Kevin Swindell car.
And he was running really good in that car as well.
Finished high up at Knoxville, the Nationals.
Yeah.
Started in the A main.
I never could really figure that one out,
right,
to be honest with you. There had to be some kind of money transaction that took place.
And now he's going to be a full-time driver for Hayward Motorsports in that 19 car, and that'll be interesting to see how that works out.
Yep.
So those two guests on Monday, looking forward to that. NASCAR opens up this weekend in Los Angeles at the Coliseum with the Busch Light Clash. This will be the third of 3 years in that contract they've got out there, so we don't know if that's going to happen again out there. But the weather doesn't look very good in L.A. this weekend. It looks like it's going to rain all day tomorrow, so
Might
we'll
rain
see
all
how
month.
that works out.
Might rain all month.
That's what they're talking
Right.
about with this thing.
There's a big storm out there.
Yeah, there's a lot of water in the atmosphere. It's going to make its way to Kansas City and across the United States, guys. I mean,
Yeah.
we're all going to get a little bit of water out of this.
We're going to get some out of it.
But I think California is going to be refilling up a lot of their problem. You know, Lake Mead was almost dry out there, guys. And
yeah.
So, yeah, I think we're going to be filling up out there for sure.
Well, hopefully those
Are they going to be able to get that event
those
in?
dry areas out there, hopefully it'll fill back up.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I'm a little worried about the event by myself because
It's supposed to rain on Monday and Tuesday
That-
and Wednesday.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's no breaks in this thing, so
Right.
it might be a postponement. I don't know, unless they do a rain shorten. You can get it in and try to
Well,
get it
you
in.
spend all that money to put that venue together.
Oh, man.
You got to run the event, don't you?
Well,
you
you
just
got
can't
to
call it off.
You got to do everything you can
Right.
to make it in. I mean, that's not like an event at Kansas where you can just come back. You know, this is a
So
one-off
you're going to
deal.
put rain tires on these cars?
There you go. Windshield
for it.
wipers and rain tires.
Scott's listening in from Fort Myers Beach, just so you know. Darren Christie says, I hate to see this feud between the World of Outlaws and High Limits as the fans are getting cheated. We've seen what Lakeside would get when the World of Outlaws was there, but to be honest with you,
30 seconds till music, I'm sorry.
the World of Outlaws always brings in a big crowd out at Lakeside Speedway.
Yeah, now will the High Limit Series running 2 nights around NASCAR weekend draw that same type of crowd?
I don't
for
know.
Friday, Saturday night show
I'm not
as
sold
part
on
of the
it.
NASCAR weekend in
better-
early May.
I'm not sold on it yet.
They better advertise, and they better be at both tracks pushing. You better have a couple NASCAR track cars out.
Right.
The Kyle Larson. I
Yeah.
mean, the main guys.
Well, when you
no
got
doubt.
drivers like Brad Sweet and Rico Abreu and some of the drivers that got signed on for the High Limit Series, they're not short of stars.
No, they're not. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in to Sports Radio 810 WHB. Don't forget, hour number 2, you can watch it on our Facebook. You can watch it on racingboys.com. You can watch it on YouTube. And you can just about watch it anywhere.
How about those Chiefs?
How about those Chiefs?
Yeah.
Good weekend to have off, right, guys?
Right, no
I mean,
doubt.
if you're one of the teams that has a weekend off and not the year off,
Go
you're
Chiefs.
You're doing good.
Go Chiefs. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. For Covell, for Todd Surprise, for Cook Elliott, I'm Scott Traylor saying thanks. We'll see you next week. We'll see you on Monday.
Rod End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial
Sorry, guys,
applications
I was
with many different types of products. Since 1989,
Oh, it's all good,
Rod End
brother.
Supply has
All
provided
good, man. We
superior products
appreciate it.
priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circuit
have a
track
good
or
one. All right, you too, man. Be
rock
careful out
climbing or going off-road, Rod End Supply has an assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products to keep your equipment moving. Rod End Supply's experienced staff is ready and willing to help you with your needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior service so you can stay in front of the field no matter what it is. To learn more, go to rodendsupply.com.
The Big O
Rod End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial applications with many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circle track or drag strip, rock climbing, or going off-road, Rod End Supply has an assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products to keep your equipment moving. Rod End Supply's experienced staff is ready and willing to help you with your needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior service so you can stay in front of the field no matter what it is. To learn more, go to rodendsupply.com.
Derek's Specialty Sportswear in-house. We do all of the screen printing, all the embroidery. We do some vinyl. The other Ad Specialty items like your pens, magnets, notepads, calendars. You can actually buy that, build your business to make it larger. We have the largest screen printing process and the largest embroidery anywhere around in the area. We can do stuff all the way from your school clubs to sports teams, a professional look in the office. If you can imagine it, we can do it for you.
Rod End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial applications with many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circle track or drag strip, rock climbing, or going off-road, Rod End Supply has an assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products to keep your equipment moving. Rod End Supply's experienced staff is ready and willing to help you with your needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior service so you can stay in front of the field no matter what it is. To learn more, go to rodendsupply.com. Rod End Supply is involved with a variety of motorsports as well as industrial applications with many different types of products. Since 1989, Rod End Supply has provided superior products priced competitively. Whether you're racing at the circle track or drag strip, rock climbing, or going off-road, Rod End Supply has an assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products to keep your equipment moving. Rod End Supply's experienced staff is ready and willing to help you with your needs. Their promise is to continue to provide a superior product with superior service so you can stay in front of the field no matter what it is. To learn more, go to rodendsupply.com.
Race fans, the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum is open 7 days a week, year-round, for you to come in and check out all of the wonderful race cars on display in the museum, and our online store at sprintcarstuff.com is open 24 hours a day for you to check out everything that we have in stock for sprint car fans. Whether it's for a birthday, anniversary, or Christmas, sprintcarstuff.com has it all. That's at the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum in Knoxville.
When Steve died, the outpouring of love was amazing. These dollars had come together to support us, and we realized, no, we didn't want to use them for us. We wanted to use them to help others.
The foundation has done so much for so many people. It helps any family that has somebody, whether it be a crew member or one of the drivers, that get hurt. We can help them to get through the situation.
I was injured in a non-wing sprint car accident that broke my neck and left me with a spinal cord injury. I was in the hospital 8 months, and that got really, really expensive, so having that extra help to help push me and my family forward was a big deal.
Yes, Steve's death is the reason the foundation exists, but it's Steve's life, and it's the lives of racers everywhere, is the reason we're able to do the work we do.
Go harder, faster, stronger with Rod End Supply. Whether you are running industrial, farming equipment, or a race car, Rod End Supply has the assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products that will help you lead the field in performance. Our superior design means our rod ends last longer and perform better, giving you the edge on the track and saving you money. Contact Rod End Supply or order online today at rodendsupply.com. We don't just sell them, we race them. rodendsupply.com. Serving the racing community for over 30 years.
Hey, this is Larry the Cable Guy, and you're listening to Racing Boys, and if you ain't listening to them, you get out of the country because you're a communist. I love the Racing Boys. Like Mater says, they make me happier than a tornado in a trailer park. You know, the funny thing about that is the Larry voice and the Mater voice are exactly the same. Get her done!
It's time for America's most unique motorsports show, Track Talk, brought to you by Rod End Supply and the Power Ride Midwest Lightning Sprints. Here are the Racing Boys, Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott.
Welcome back. It's Track Talk here on RBN, the Racing Boys Broadcasting Network. We hope that some people followed us over from Sports Radio 810 WHB. And it appears that they have. And, man, you know, I don't know if people really realize what we've got going on down here in our studio. We've got a pretty nice studio lined up down here, don't we?
Yeah, it's your basement. You don't have to go far to get here.
All I got to do is take a shower and get up and walk down the stairs.
The rest of us got to drive in a little bit. That's all right. I have no problem with that.
Todd's usually here about 6:30.
This is my shortest commute out of all of our locations that we've ever shot Track Talk in.
The longest one was when we were out in East Independence.
Yeah,
that was a long track, wasn't it?
Man, rush hour. When I used to do that evening show,
right,
and I'd hit downtown rush hour traffic.
Yeah,
it'd almost be better if I left at 4 o'clock. I had to be there. We start our show at 7. It'd almost be best if I left at 4, because if I left at 5, there's no way to even. I wasn't going. I hit 2
traffic jam.
Well, I hit 2 of them. I'd hit 3 of them. I hit the Overland Park, the one come from my town, and then downtown, and then Independence. It was a mess.
That's been over 5 years ago now.
Oh yeah. No, we've been here quite a while. And
we've been here 4 years. Can you believe that? You've been in this location 4 years.
Has it been that many years?
We've been here. I would have said 3, but
first of March of 2020.
How about that?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Time flies.
Because
the pandemic hit right after that.
I turned 60 when I moved into this house, didn't I?
Yeah. And then all hell broke loose.
We had a big birthday party in here, and about 3 days later, the world shut down.
And nobody saw each other for quite a long time.
That was the last gathering we had for
you know what? The only problem with that during that time is the three of us always saw each other, right?
Yeah.
Right.
We still did our shows. Everything moved along just fine. But I remember you just got back from California when the world shut down.
Right.
He called and said it's getting bad out here.
Sweet, you did
well, hey, to be honest with
the hospital you went to that day, remember?
Hey, to be honest with you, I had a real bad case of heartburn.
Yeah, and you went to the hospital.
I did not want to go to a hospital in Northern California.
Because even though the world hadn't shut down yet at that time,
there was the
still
worst
some fears about the COVID. Even at that time,
that was the worst part of the country to be in Northern California.
Because there were cases out there.
There was cases out there, and so when I went to the hospital, I said, "You guys got any COVID cases here?"
They laughed.
They said, "Nope, not yet."
The next week, it was full on.
It was crazy the next week.
And that weekend, Todd and I were out at the Carb Hall of Fame banquet.
Yep, that was me and Kirk's last public appearance.
And that was the last big event that
that's right.
happened. That and your birthday party, and that was it.
Right, yeah.
Shut her down.
It was
I want to give
ago.
I want to give a shout out to Kelly. He's checking in from Central Point, Oregon. Says, "Good morning, boys." And also want to give out a shout out to, I believe it is Sam. He's up in Lincoln Raceway.
Now there's several.
Hey, what do you think about the flagman getting taken away from Lincoln? What do you think?
Is that
about
where we're talking? The Pennsylvania Lincoln
yeah,
Speedway?
Yeah.
Virtual. They've gone to a virtual flagman situation at Lincoln Speedway.
You know, me personally, I don't get this, because the flagman is really the person that dictates the race, right? The flagman always has to take control of the race. If there's ever an issue with a driver on the racetrack, the flagman is the one that has to take the issue with that person. Would you agree with that, Kirk?
Yeah, I mean, especially that's what it used to be before technology set in. But now you got, especially these big series, the competition director up in the booth controls everything because that's the person that's talking to all the drivers on the receivers, and they control everything. And now the flagman is kind of a functionary, which wasn't always the case.
Right.
Back before you had, radios and receivers and all the control that they now have up the booth. But, I was thinking a lot about this since we talked about it last week. And, as a race fan, I would miss seeing the flagman up there in the stand waving those flags. Seeing the yellow come out or the red, and especially at the end of the race with the white flag and the checkered flag. As a race fan, I think I'd miss seeing that, wouldn't you?
Right, me too. Lloyd says, the last I knew, the race director controls the race.
Yeah.
But listen, the flagman has to take charge of the race. Terry Watland was the best at taking charge of a race.
Yeah, but now the flagman just is told what to do over the radio. Throw the yellow out, or that's what the flagman is now. Is not the main official anymore.
Well, it needs to be the main official. It makes no sense at all to me to get rid of the flagman, to be honest with you.
When I announced races up at the Stewart Speedway in Iowa back in the 70s, the owner of the track flagged the races and ran everything from the flag stand. And he wore a referee shirt, and there was no question who was in charge at that racetrack was Gail Miller up in that flag stand, and anybody else really didn't matter. You knew he was the guy making the call.
Right.
I watched a movie yesterday, and I didn't mean to. I was flipping through channels.
And just got stuck on a movie?
And I would normally never watch an older movie, but what drew me in, so have you ever, I'm sure, Kirk, at Fireball 500, Kirk, have you ever?
Oh, yeah, I remember watching that
so
movie.
What
Frankie
I thought,
Avalon and Annette Funicello
What
and
I thought was
Fabian.
very interesting was the scenes, because you guys were talking about race directors and what have you. What I thought was very interesting is the detail that they had, they had a scorer actually scoring the laps when they were shooting that scene while the announcer was announcing the thing.
Right.
And they actually had a scorer
scoring the race
laps, and I thought
with
that was
a pencil.
With a pencil, and it looked. I mean, for authenticity, like you didn't have to put that in there, but when I
Right.
tuned in, I was like, "Hey, that girl's scoring the laps," and I'm almost wondering where all that was shot at, and I'm sure, and she had no speaking parts in it, but like you said, it was funny because the owner of the track, he started it, he made the rules and everything, and was set up in race control and everything, and the flagman was kind of like the guy that does it at the Chili Bowl. He's down on the track, back in the day, and,
Right.
and runs off to the side. So I'm sure those flagmen back in those days had less control. Obviously, they have somebody telling them what to do, right?
Back in Riverside days, back in the early days, the flagman flagged from on the track.
Just like they do at the
just
Chili
like
Bowl.
at the Chili Bowl,
Right,
the shootout.
at the Chili Bowl, right.
Uh,
But that's pretty dangerous
But you
because
didn't-
we saw Terry get hit last year.
You didn't have radios. You didn't have computers, transponders, receivers, all
Yeah,
of that.
none of that
None of
was-
that existed.
Exactly. There was, like you said, a couple people with pens and paper. That makes you appreciate.
Well, back in those long races, like what was depicted in this movie, every team had its own score.
Right.
And
I see,
they'd
yeah.
all sit up in a stand, keeping track of the laps for their own car.
How about that?
And then at the end of the race, if there was any dispute on the scoring, they would go back to the individual team's scoring sheets and try to figure out any discrepancies with the main scorer. That's how it worked. Nowadays, with transponders, you don't have any of that.
Well, so do we want to go into the Ben Shelton interview?
Yeah, let's talk a little dirt late model racing. Big week, couple of weeks. Lucas Oil Late Model Series action going on down in Florida and Georgia. Last weekend, they were at the Golden Isles Speedway. And on Saturday night, it was Ricky Thornton Jr. winning a feature race that Jonathan Davenport and Chris Madden really didn't care much for because the track rubbered down and Ricky Thornton, moved his way past Jonathan Davenport, did a little rubbing his racing to move him out of the way, and Jonathan Davenport didn't like that very much.
He wasn't too happy about it, was
No.
he?
But Ricky Thornton Jr., that's what they say now in the broadcast. Ricky Thornton Jr. doing Ricky Thornton things, and that is winning races. Last year he won 40 feature events, 23 on the Lucas Oil Late Model Series. And last night he won his third Lucas Oil Late Model race in the last week as he won a race at Ocala Speedway earlier in the week. And then last night he dominated at Alltech Speedway in Lake City, Florida last night. Ben Shelton is the pit reporter for the Lucas Oil Late Model Series broadcasts on Flow Racing. And we had this conversation with Ben earlier this week on Mostly Motorsports to talk about all what went on last Saturday night at Golden Isle Speedway in Brunswick, Georgia.
Ben, what a weekend in late model racing. Ricky Thornton picks up the win, but that's not really the big story about what happened in Victory Lane afterwards.
Well, usually it takes until about June or July for people to really get mad at each other. No, not for us. January 27th, here we go. Buckle up, get ready. Marlar's mad at Thornton. Davenport's mad at Thornton. Thornton's mad at everybody.
Right.
Thornton's in Victory Lane. He just won $25,000, but he's spitting mad. And, welcome to 2024 racing season, everybody.
Yeah, no doubt. At one point when Mike Marlar, he made that move on Ricky Thornton, and then Jonathan Davenport, he got by them both there at during that point. Can you take us through that a little bit?
Yeah, I was actually standing down there kind of toward turns 3 and 4, and Marlar got a run to the outside of Thornton, and it seemed like Thornton kind of pushed up a little bit there. They made a little bit of contact, and JD said thank you very much and shot by both of them. And really at that point, I really thought it was probably going to be over. They'd gone out and worked the racetrack a little bit, but we had rain not too far out, and ironically, the rain, just as it got to the facility, it all fell apart. So, hindsight's always 20/20, but track prep crew probably didn't get to do as much as they would have liked. So it was a bottom-dominant track. Now, with that said, some guys were able to roll that outside a little bit.
Right.
That happened. Thornton, I think, knew how imperative it was to get back to the lead. They go off next time by into 3 and 4, and Thornton gets together with Davenport and gets back around him, and then later loses the lead again, and then gets it back. And
right,
and then we had Chris Madden let Mad late in the race because he goes around Thornton as we come back to 10 to go, and the Lucas Oil rule is the leader plus 3, and I think that it was the leader plus 2 had come across, so the lap didn't count. So Madden was a little upset about that, but it was definitely not a night where you wanted to be the series director Rick Schwally because everybody was mad at you.
Right,
so
right. Hey,
one of those nights, but yeah.
Let me ask you this question: did Mike Marlar, did he have a reason to be upset the way that Ricky Thornton raced him a little bit?
I don't know if that's for me to say one way or the other, because in the car, and obviously I've never driven one, so I can't speak to what other people experience or don't. But I think they knew that passing was going to be at a premium, and I feel for Thornton. Thornton felt like, for Marlar, he was like, man, that was my chance, and he's with a new team, and it's $25,000. So, yeah, I would say from the 10,000-foot view, I would say that Marlar probably had a reason to be mad. Whether it was truly justified or not. He had a reason. The sport's tough. It's like all forms of racing, and when you got a chance to win, you don't want anything messing it up.
Right. Jonathan Davenport, did he get into the corner a little too hot that one time, and Ricky Thornton got into him, or was that just a move by Ricky Thornton just to upset JD?
I think it was maybe a combination of everything, and I also think it was a combination of racing, on a narrow groove racetrack and guys getting really aggressive and going after it. From my perspective, and again, not neither one of the cars, standing down in turn 3, it felt like maybe, Ricky got in the corner a little too hot and just couldn't stay out of JD. And then that happened. And, the one thing that I think is finally possibly the underlying fact of it all is we just had a year where we watched Ricky Thornton Jr. win 23 of these series races and 40 wins overall. And I don't think, there's not a lot of give in this sport anyway, but I really don't think, guys want to give a guy that was that successful. They know they can't give him anything.
Right.
And so they, I think it all added up, and then you throw $25,000 on the line, and it just makes it that much more heated.
Right.
Ben, I don't think I've ever seen a driver as upset after a win as Ricky Thornton Jr. was climbing out of that race car. Were you surprised at the way he reacted after that race?
His attitude.
I was. I think, looking back, the writing was on the wall, because before he ever gets out of the car, his crew chief, Anthony Burrows, is over there yelling at one of the Lucas officials, Jeremy Shields, as Jeremy's waiting to hand him the Hoosier headband and the Sunoco checkered flag. I think the writing was there that he was going to be angry. One other time in my life, Bub McCool won the Gumbo Nationals down at Greenville, won a $10,000 super late model race. And he did not like the way the race director talked to him on the race fever during the feature. And he got out, and he didn't even want to talk about winning the race. He wanted to read the riot act to the race director down there. So
Right.
I've been in that position a few times, but not many. No, you usually expect a guy that won $25,000. He's going to be far happier than he is mad. But Ricky was ready to bite some nails in half down there.
In Victory Lane, JD come up, and he kind of nudged Ricky Thornton Jr. there in Victory Lane. Was that a sense of his displeasure when he did that, you think?
I know JD well enough that there was probably about 20% joking. Maybe, I'm actually going to back up. I'm going to say there was 2% joking and 98% of, hey, dude, you are not my favorite person right now.
Right.
So, and Ricky kept eyeballs forward. He didn't look at him, which was probably also a good move. And then of course JD gave me the quote there afterwards. It's buckle up. It's going to be a long.
Yeah, the top three podium shoot can be kind of dangerous at times, Ken. But JD gave the greatest quote of the whole night when he said, "It's going to get exciting coming up."
Yes,
isn't it?
yes, and I do believe it is. We rolled into Ocala, Florida yesterday, and we were off yesterday, and we're off today. But we get back to racing tomorrow, and formerly Bubba Raceway Park, now Ocala Speedway. It has a tendency anyway to get people upset, have some wild stuff happen.
Right.
So if you're going to bring some hurt feelings, maybe some hot tempers, and some revenge into a racetrack, this one, again, buckle up, guys. It could get interesting. I will say this though. Cooler heads, I talked Jonathan Davenport's souvenir vendor is staying here at the hotel, and he said he talked to JD yesterday, and JD said, it's a new day. I'm kind of over it. But I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of giving when it comes down to it. So we'll see how it all goes.
Yeah. The Lucas Oil Late Model Series is probably, in my eyes, probably the premier series. I know we've got the World of Outlaw Late Models, but right now it looks like Ricky Thornton's got the lead in the points right now, right?
Well, right now, it's kind of a juggernaut up there because you got Thornton, and I actually think Davenport and Hudson tied for the points lead because they do points a little bit different down here. Now, so far, all the points are counting, but there's 15 total Speed Weeks races for the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series down here. Now, the first 3 to East Bay next week, those don't count as points events. So you have 12, and they take their best 6. So really, you just need to have 6 good races out of Speed Weeks. So, if you've gone out there and you've gone 0 for 2 so far and had 2 really bad outings, is that ideal? No. But you're not down and out because we've had 1 rained out. So you still have, we've got 2 in the books. We got 9 left, and you try to have 6 good points performances, and then you move out of here into the season. But, it's a little confusing for some on how the points work down here. But I kind of like it, guys. I think it's hard knowing that, these Lucas shows down here, the Outlaws are off on those nights, and these fields are tough, and especially with a rookie contender, man, you don't want him coming out of Speed Weeks 45th in points and thinking, man, I'm not going to do this.
Right.
I do like what they've done down here. And, the Outlaws, they 2 weeks ago or week and a half ago. They had a great week over there at Volusia with the Sunshine Nationals. They battled weather a little bit, but they had 2 great races. And, just, exciting times down here. The next few weeks are going to be interesting to see, who rises to the challenge and who else's feelings are hurt and where we're at when, we head out of here in about 3 weeks.
Ben, I know this is so competitive. Ricky Thornton Jr. had such an epic season last year. Jonathan Davenport 2 years ago. Now Ricky Thornton Jr., yes, he's off to a great start. He got that big win the other night, but he's got a big target on his back now. How's he going to handle it?
One thing about it is I think that, getting Thornton, getting him fired up, actually, that could be really bad for everybody else. I made the comment the other night, I meant it, that a mad Ricky Thornton Jr. is a dangerous Ricky Thornton Jr. I could see him winning both races at Bubba Raceway Park, Ocala Speedway this week, and then this weekend at Alltech. He loves both those places, and he made the comment tonight. They've done messed up and made me mad. So I don't think it falters whatsoever when it comes down to that. I think he'll rise to the challenge. But I also think when he's getting into the closing laps, he's going to be looking at that scoreboard to see if the 49 or the 157 are back there too. So,
Yeah.
and, I don't think he's worried, but I think he's going to be keeping a watchful eye.
There you have it.
Ricky Thornton Jr. is off to a great start.
Man, he is off to a great start, and he is currently won 3 races. Hudson O'Neal has won 2, and Hudson O'Neal is behind Ricky Thornton Jr. by 50 points right now.
And again, it's a little slightly different format than a year ago, but the key factor is top 4 to the final race at the Dirt Track World Championship. But they'll determine, what's different about this year is they'll determine the final 4 multiple races ahead of the Dirt Track World Championship. So the top 4 will be racing it out for like the last 4 races of the season for the championship, unlike one race, top 4, one race, the way
Kirk,
they did it last year.
Who do you think is going to be the top 4? I think Ricky Thornton Jr., Hudson O'Neal, Devin Moran, and Jonathan Davenport. What do you think?
Yeah, well, Jonathan Davenport's got to have better nights than he had last night. Davenport didn't qualify very well last night, which put him towards the back of his heat race. Finished 5th, didn't make the transfer out of the heat, so he had to run the B. And so he starts 23rd in the A main last night, ends up 15th. You can't have very many nights like that. So Davenport, not a good night. And it's like we talked about the sprint car guys. You got to qualify well. You got to start up front of these races because the competition is just so good for you to think you're going to come from the back half of the field and win these races. Ricky Thornton Jr. last night started on the pole and led all 50 laps. And I agree with you about Devin Moran. He is off to a great start. Of course, so he always runs well in Florida, it seems like. But he had another great run last night. Started 4th, ends up 2nd. O'Neal was 3rd. And Tyler Bruning, one of the big runners of the night, started 17th and ends up 4th. And I thought Jimmy Owens looked about as well as he has in a long time.
Right.
He didn't have a good year last year. He didn't win one Lucas Oil late model race all of last year. But Jimmy Owens looks like he's figured some things out and is running a lot better now. He was a factor in last night's race, which I don't think we saw him a factor in any race last year.
Jonathan Davenport started 23rd last night and ended up 15th.
Yeah, that's not going to get it done if you're thinking about going for championships. So Davenport can't have very many nights like that. And he's had some good runs to start the season, but for whatever reason, last night was not it. The track conditions, I thought, were great for the feature event. The line changed multiple times throughout that race. There for a while, the high side was the place to run, and then it went to the low side, and I thought Ricky Thornton Jr., as the leader, did a good job of adjusting his lines to stay out in front because it was not easy on that race, which I thought was a racy track. With the lines changing, and Ricky Thornton Jr. did a great job of changing his lines to stay out in front.
Hold on, Kirk. He led every lap.
He did lead every lap, but he had some challengers during that race. It wasn't like he just took off from the beginning and checked out. He did at the end, But during the middle portions of that race, he had to fend off some challenges there, and I thought he did a really good job of doing that. So we'll see what happens tonight. Night 2 at Alltech Speedway. They'll take a night off and 6 straight nights of racing at East Bay Raceway Park near Tampa. And I think not all of those races are points races. I think a couple of those, I'm not really sure about that you can throw out of your best finishes. So not all of those nights at East Bay will be points-paying nights. Some of those drivers will be able to throw out some of their worst finishes and move on from there.
Todd, you want to chime in a little bit?
Oh, no. I was actually leaning. Sorry. No, we're all good.
All right.
But good action, so looking forward to that. We had another race in sprint car racing that occurred last night at Hendry Motorsports Park. USCS 360 sprint cars were in action last night, and Davey Franick coming up with the feature win at Hendry County Speedway last night. As we look down through the results of that, Mark Smith second, Ryan Timms, who we had on earlier this week and played a portion of that interview earlier in the show, started 12th and finished third ahead of Danny Sims and Wayne Johnson. Started on the pole, ended up 5th last night at Hendry County Speedway. They'll do it again tonight down there.
All right. So we've got an interview that we did with Ryan Timms on
Landon Crawley.
Landon Crawley.
Yeah.
I said Ryan Timms because we'd already played that interview.
Yeah, we did him in the first hour. But Landon Crawley, and you know the family very well, his dad, Tim Crawley, who won plenty of races in his career.
I traveled with Tim Crawley up and down the road for many years.
Now the promoter at Texarkana 67 Speedway, home of the Short Track Nationals now.
And oh, by the way, Tim Crawley said that he'd be on our show to talk about why he decided to go from 360s to 410s.
We'll get him on it here coming up here in the next few weeks. But Landon Crawley is going to be going for the full World of Outlaw Tour for Jason Sides this year, and he was at the press conference yesterday down at Charlotte. But we spoke with Landon Crawley last Monday on Mostly Motorsports to talk about, he's still a pretty young guy. Now he's going to be a full-time World of Outlaws driver. Talks about that and his very short, young racing career. Here's a little portion of that interview from Mostly Motorsports with Landon Crawley.
Are you a little pumped up about the possibility of running a full World of Outlaws schedule this year?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's definitely going to be a lot. It's going to be a long year. I'm just going to kind of go every weekend at a time and learn as much as I can.
Yep, no doubt about it. So you started racing when you were 5 years old. Talk about your dad getting you into racing when you were 5 years old.
At first, I really didn't want to race. I guess just being at the track every weekend, and I just wasn't into it. And then kind of one day out of the blue, we had a go-kart hanging on the wall, and then one day out of the blue, I just decided I wanted to race, and then pretty much from that point on, raced just about every weekend. So feels like I've been doing this my whole life pretty much now. So kind of all I know.
So you graduated from the go-karts and you went into 305 racing. And talk about your career in 305 racing, because you were pretty good at 305s.
Yeah, I had several nights where I wasn't too bad. I started racing 305s when I was 12, so I jumped into it pretty early on in my career. And then my very first night in the 305, I was actually kind of thrown out to the Sharks. I think my first 305 race, there was 60 cars there at a track meet where Dad haven't hardly raced at Wichita Falls. So my first race, I think I ran 12th out of like 60 cars, and then that right there kind of gave me a big confidence boost going into West Memphis and running some of the local stuff, and then ended up running that about 20 times, and then that next year I was up in the 360s.
Yeah, and then you graduated to the 360s, and you ran with the Lucas Oil ASCS National Tour. What did that series teach you on traveling up and down the road a little bit? What did that bring to you as a race team?
Yeah, that was by far the most important year of my racing career. That was my first year breaking out, going up north some, Iowa, up there, Nebraska, stuff like that, getting on some bigger tracks. So, getting out and racing somewhere other than, 2 hours away at I-30 or West Memphis. And that, just that 1 year, I improved majorly. So, I think that year will help me a ton going into this next year, which this year I didn't race a whole lot. I think I only ran about 30 times, and then which was about half of what I raced the year before. So
right.
I think getting a little bit of experience, getting out on the road, working on cars at car washes and staying up till 1 or 2 in the morning maintenancing, that'll vastly help me this year.
Yeah. I know that you were down at the Southern Sprint Car Shootout, and I know on the final night you ran 13th with the 7S car. Tell us what happened there a little bit, because I was looking for you to really do a really good job there. You started 6th, you ended up running 13th. Tell us what happened there a little bit.
Yeah, that was a long weekend for us. We had a fuel filter fall off the first night, so first night pretty much was just a scratch. Then the second night, some of those problems kind of carried over, but ended up being really good in the feature. Kind of got stuck for a little bit, and then I think I easily, if I would have started up front that night on Friday, could have ran up front. And then going into Saturday, I was really good. I think went quick time in my group, 4th to 3rd in the heat, and didn't quite get the redraw perfect, but I ended up starting 6th, and we just missed the setup pretty badly. I mean,
right.
Just how it goes sometimes. Car was pretty evil to drive in the feature, and I just ended up struggling pretty bad. The car wasn't very fun to drive in dirty air, and then it was decent in clean air, but it was just one of those nights where you just miss.
Do you kind of feel the pressure on you a little bit at driving the 7S car? The Sides Motorsports car has been running up and down the road for a long, long time. Do you kind of feel a little pressure on you a little bit?
Not too bad. Jason, I feel like me and Jason are going to work very well together. He's very laid back, and he's not going to beat you down when you have a bad night. So my expectations aren't super high. I mean, I definitely want to make as many A's as possible. That's kind of my biggest goal. But I think everything's going to go very well this year. It's 100% going to be a learning year, but racing with Jason's for somebody that's been doing this for over 20 years now and raced every single one of these tracks 20 times. I mean, that's going to be very, very important for me to, I can know that I go onto the track and I'll have a perfect race car.
How did you and Jason Sides get together to make this run for the World of Outlaws?
My dad's raced with Jason for forever around Memphis and West Memphis, all that. So we didn't. I've never really been around him until here recently. We hung out with him for a little bit at that last Outlaw race at Devil's Bowl, and then kind of had to work something out to go run the race at Tri-State, which at that point in time, none of us had any clue about running the Outlaw deal. We kind of knew Robbie was out of the car, wasn't 100% sure on it, didn't know what he was going to do. So when the door came open, we just made sure to jump on it. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So when something like this comes up and sponsors come in line, you just got to jump on it.
Yeah, I know that you got to really. Hey, listen, I'm taking a look at you right now, holding a kangaroo down there at the Chili Bowl. Whose kangaroo was that?
That is his name's Cody Hinton. He's a guy out of Texarkana. Just helps work at the track. He's actually Shelby Hinton's uncle, I believe.
Yeah.
So just kind of one of the racetrack sponsors. So they end up. He actually has 2 camels and a kangaroo.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, so listen, how'd you feel like your Chili Bowl went?
This year, didn't love it, didn't hate it. I made a pretty bad mistake in my heat race on my prelim, and I ended up going ninth to third, and then all on the bottom. The track wasn't amazing, and then I ended up letting Brady and another guy get by me, and ended up going to fifth, and that right there kind of killed my whole week, really. So, I wasn't terrible. I think I ended up in a D, but my D main had Mitchell Moles and Justin Grant right behind me, so it wasn't terrible. Wasn't quite as good as the year before, but I'm hoping next year we can work on it. Hopefully put it in the A.
So how about you're going right back at Volusia next week? Are you going to run more than just the World of Outlaws sanctioned races?
As of right now, I had the 360 at Volusia, and then right now we're going to run the 360s at East Bay. No high limit, but the 360 race at East Bay, I'm pretty sure it's King of the Wings or Ronald Laney Memorial. One of them races, I'm pretty sure. So that's all we've got scheduled right now. It's extra. So then other than that, it'll just be all the outlaw races.
Yeah, so you're kind of restricted when you run with the World of Outlaws. You can only run 4 races, I believe it is, outside of the World of Outlaws. So you're not going to run any high-limit races, right?
I'm not too sure yet. We're just going to – I have 4 races, so we're just going to have to check and see, possibly running the high-limit race at West Memphis, and we're just going to have to, look around, see where we're at, see how everything's standing with the outlaw guys, and then just take it one week at a time.
There you have it. That's Landon Crawley. He's going to be a full-time World of Outlaws driver for Jason Sides.
I think this is going to go for Landon.
I think he's got, to be honest with you, to be brutally honest with you, I think he's going to have to go through a big learning curve to keep up with the World of Outlaw drivers.
Yeah.
Robbie Price did pretty good in that car last year.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
I think he won a race up there at Houston, if I recall. Robbie Price did, but it's just learning how to live that life out on the road is a challenge in of itself.
No
let
doubt.
alone just trying to get a handle on the cars and the competition out there. But Landon seems like a good kid. He grew up in this sport, so he understands, all the challenges involved.
He's been racing since he was 5 years old.
So I think he's going in this wide-eyed and knowing the challenge ahead, but it'll be interesting to see at his age how he's going to be able to maneuver through life on the road in the World of Outlaws, which, it's going to be a tough go.
No doubt about it.
You touched on Robert Ballou coming on the show on Monday. Looking forward to seeing the start of the USAC season, which will be next Friday and Saturday at Ocala Speedway, and then they move to Volusia Speedway Park for 2 nights of racing.
So we're going to start our visit with Connor Wade soon as they start down there at Volusia, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have him on after the first weekend.
And then
not this Monday, but the following Monday, we'll get Connor Wade on to talk about the 4 nights of racing at Volusia, which starts on Wednesday of next week.
Right.
And then I think that same show will probably bring Chase Rodman on, who's the new voice of the High Limit Series, to preview
when is
the High
their
Limit
first
Series. Be the following weekend at East Bay Raceway Park.
Right.
So I think the debut for both Connor Wade for the World of Outlaws and Chase Rodman for the High Limit will be not this next Monday, but a week from Monday. And we'll have them on weekly to give us the lowdown of both those series as we move through the 2024 season. But getting back to the USAC, the non-wing sprint cars opening up 2 nights next weekend at Ocala, February 12th and 13th at Volusia, and then back to Ocala Speedway for 3 nights, February 15th, 16th, and 17th. Brian Holbert is going to be on the microphone for the Flow Racing coverage and the PA for those races down in Florida. So look forward to seeing that.
Brian is one of the very best in the business.
And all the best to, I know they've had a child that had a little bit of surgery here this last week and seems to be doing well. So all the best to
He's
Brian
got a
and
couple
his family.
kids.
A couple of kids, yeah. So all the best. I don't want to put out a call to Stan Caesar, who's going through some cancer, had surgery to remove one of his kidneys.
Stan Caesar's going through some surgery?
And so he had a surgery here this past week, and all the best to him as he fights the battle with cancer.
Stan is one of the nicest guys ever.
Great guy.
Yeah.
So all the best to that. Did you see the NASCAR released its reality series on Netflix the other day called Full Speed? Did you see any of those episodes?
No, I didn't.
They had 5 episodes covering the NASCAR playoffs last year. And I watched all 5 of those episodes last week. So
you did,
but yes, and it was a lot like if you watch the F1 series on there, it's a lot like that. But it didn't have as much drama as the episodes on Flow when they did the Dirt, the Last Great American Sport. I thought was better than this because it had a little bit more drama.
Really?
In the Dirt series on Flow. So that's my take on it. I like the Dirt series on Flow better than the Full Speed on NASCAR. You know, I think a lot of it has to do with the drivers in NASCAR today aren't as compelling as they once were. They didn't even feature Kyle Busch in this series. He was not even featured at all. And I'm thinking, why not? And no Chase Elliott was covered. I like a lot of these guys, Ryan Blaney and William Byron. They're all good guys, but are they really figures that's going to draw people in to see a lot of crazy stuff going on? They touched on Ross Chastain a little bit. He's pretty interesting, but I thought the star of the show wasn't even a driver. It was Booty Barker that I thought was the best of anybody. He was great.
Booty in the wheelchair.
Booty.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was great. And Denny Hamlin probably was the best of the drive. He brought it.
What did he say?
Booty Barker.
What did he say?
He was just real. He was just honest and real. And they asked him one time, they brought up a clip where Booty says, you got to be even keel. You got to be even keel, whether you lose or you win. And when Bubba Wallace didn't make the playoffs, Booty Barker, he was pretty upset about it. And they showed it. And they said, well, look at this. He goes, I lied. He said, you got to be even keel. And Booty says, yeah, I lied.
Hey, Todd. So
yes, sir.
We've decided that we're going to talk a little bit about the Chiefs in the last segment of the show, right?
Yeah,
we're not going to open the show with the Chiefs.
Yeah, from now on Racing Boys, mostly motorsports or track talk, we're going.
Well, unless they win the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, no,
that'll be
about it.
That'll
be
at
different
the beginning of the show.
Yeah, well, that'll be different,
right?
Well, that's an exception to the rule.
Do you think they're going to win?
It's going to be tough.
It's going to be a tough game.
We lost our defensive lineman there, and it's
who was the defensive lineman they lost?
The guy that
Amuga.
Yeah, the guy didn't start the first 4 weeks, and then he got hurt. He blew his knee out in that last game.
That last game, he blew it out
against Baltimore.
He blew his ACL out, so he's out. But these games are crapshoot. You can never tell who's going to win in this type of a game. There's no.
Well, you have to bet on the Chiefs because of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Do you not?
Right.
Who's been there more and who's won more?
Well, hold on. First of all, the San Francisco 49ers are the favorites.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
And I love Brock Purdy. I documented that on this show for a lot now. I watched Brock Purdy play 4 years in college. Huge Cyclone fan, as everybody knows. And I became a 49er fan because of Brock Purdy. And as great as he brought his team back the last 2 weeks.
But you're pulling for the Chiefs.
I'm still a Chiefs fan, yeah.
Right.
I'm still – the only reason I'm a 49ers fan is because of Brock Purdy.
Right.
I'm a Chiefs fan no matter who's playing for him. But as great a fan as I am of Brock Purdy, and as much as he led his team back, and real proud of him for doing that, he's still going up against Patrick Mahomes, who's already won 2 Super Bowls. And I watched that one in 2020 here the other night when they beat the 49ers, and the way Mahomes brought his team back from 10 points down in the fourth quarter to win, and the way he won the last Super Bowl last year. How can you not favor Kansas City with Patrick Mahomes to win
hold on. Didn't Brock Purdy get knocked out of the game last year?
Well, that was in the NFC Championship game against the Eagles, where he tore up his arm and had to have surgery. Got knocked out early, so he didn't get to finish the game against the Eagles last year. But Patrick Mahomes has been there and done that, and for the 49ers to be favored, that makes no sense to me.
Well,
how can you not favor the Kansas City Chiefs, who've already won? They're the defending champions, and Patrick Mahomes is already a 2-time MVP in the league.
Yeah,
and the Super Bowl.
I think it'd be a much greater. I think the 49ers would be much more favored if none of those things would have been true, but the 49ers have been the strongest team all year long. We've known that, they were
right.
They had 1 week where they kind of went. They had a couple weeks, but not nothing like the rest of this. Every team in the league had a bad week. Unfortunately for Baltimore, their bad week happened the last game of the year for them. But
hey, listen, Baltimore imploded last week.
I'm going to blame it on their coaches, because if you can't run the ball after you've been that dominant all year running, they ran it 11 times total, 6 times with their running back, you're not going to win the game.
Right.
And it's not.
As great as Lamar Jackson was the whole year, when it came down to crunch time and the money was on the line, he didn't deliver the goods.
I don't know if you saw that video. There's a video of the wide receiver walking over to him, telling him, "Look, man, you've got to run. You changed the game during the game." Came up to him, and then he still wasn't running.
What about Tucker pushing his luck with Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes before the game?
People
warming
know
up in the Chiefs end.
People, if you've watched Justin Tucker in the past,
he's always done that.
He's done this to everybody, and look, he's the best kicker in the league by far. Our guy's number 2.
Bucker's pretty good too.
We have a 1A and 1B. But Tucker, this guy's lights out. He knows it, and he has a little bit of an attitude for a kicker. Most kickers don't have, they don't have any right to have an attitude,
right.
really. But this guy, he's been doing this all year, and if you listen to that podcast, they moved it once. He set it back up again, and then old Mahomes moved it again, and then Travis, as the big brother, comes in and says, "You know what? We're not having this. This is as far as this is going. You take your crap and move to the other side." And his whole team was at the other end. Look, if you ask any of the other kickers, all of them line up at the 30 or 20 and practice. Nobody sets their crap up on the goal line.
On the 1
Well,
yard
if you're
line.
going to do that, you do that earlier in the day before the Chiefs come out.
He'd already done that. This is him trying to dominate.
He was trying to get in their space.
He was,
yeah.
and it didn't work. And
this is the other reason why you got to favor the Chiefs to win this football game, is the mind games that are played. This is a whole lot different situation in the Super Bowl than anything else. And I know a lot of those 49ers players have been in the Super Bowl. They were there 4 years ago. I get all that, but they didn't win that Super Bowl 4 years ago. Chiefs
well, Jimmy Garoppolo was
a quarterback.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing that I think during that Ravens game, they did everything they could as an organization to try to. I mean, during the third quarter, they brought out Suggs, turned all the lights out in the building and they brought him out, and he did his walk out just to get the crowd pumped up again, because they felt a lull in the building. So they brought him out and to kick him up again, and it still didn't help. I mean, trust me, I didn't have very good thoughts going into that game, guys, when we started that, but when we put 2 great drives and scored and put the pressure on them right at the beginning of the game. That changed how they felt. I
But the
think
Ravens went away from everything that got them to where they were all year, and that's by running the ball.
I think
you know what we
freaked out.
I think that in the grand scheme of things, we better appreciate what we've got with Patrick Mahomes.
No doubt.
Nobody. I mean, this town was tough to live in for a
In
long
the
80s and
80s
90s.
and 90s.
I mean, we had a good run, but the problem with the run we had was Schottenheimer and
Schottenheimer was a good coach.
Great
He
coach.
just couldn't get us in the big
Well,
game.
Well, they never had the big quarterback.
No, even
never
when we
had
brought
the big time quarterback.
Yeah, when Montana came in, that was our shot, right? And we really felt it. And then the concussion, took over and hit,
They lost in Buffalo, didn't
So,
they?
yeah.
In the AFC Championship.
But we got
game.
so close. Derek Thomas and, how many years of us just getting so close. And so, yes, guys, if you aren't reveling in what we're dealing with right now,
Ain't going to last forever, I can tell you that.
My first text to my friend that lives in Oklahoma, I said, is this real life? Like, this doesn't... when we made the championship, when we cashed our ticket to the Super Bowl again, that was my comment. Is this really going on? Is this real life? Because I'd have never dreamed this, man. Like,
4 Super Bowls in 5 years.
Hold on.
That's a joke.
Patrick Mahomes has been in 6 AFCS championship games.
6 straight.
6 straight.
4 Super Bowls in 5 years and 2 Super Bowl wins. And maybe a third.
2 MVPs of the Super Bowl and an MVP of the league. So yeah, you're doing something right. Like you said, guys, live in this moment because it does. This doesn't happen. Like
it's not going to happen.
Here's what's
forever.
fun. Here's where we are, guys. I mean, as a Chiefs fan, I know we're worldwide here on our show, but here in Kansas City, we're the team that everybody hates now. It's been so long that. We've been the irrelevant team. We've been the team that you've laughed at. We've been the team that was close, but we've never been the team that everybody hates. We're the hated. We're
just like the Patriots were here a few years ago, right?
And I get it, guys. When Patrick Mahomes goes to 6 straight AFC, that's 6 years in a row you're seeing this guy. If you're not a fan of him, you're hating it. You're anybody but him, right? I mean, What was it like at the racetracks, guys, back in the day, right? Anybody but who?
Earnhardt.
There you go. Anybody but...
Hold on. Anybody but Gene Claxton.
Yeah, anybody but Kinzer, right? Anybody but Schatz, right? I mean, that's how it goes. When you're the man winning...
They get tired of it
They get
quick.
tired of it quick, guys. And,
Donnie Schatz, another one.
That's what I'm saying. When Donnie Schatz, anybody but Schatz.
Well, when he won 10 championships... Did he win them in a row?
No.
How many did he
But
win
he
in
was
a row?
stacking them, though.
He won I think 6 in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you're dominant for more than a half a decade, people get tired of
Well, how about John Force in drag racing?
Absolutely.
He won 16 championships.
I mean, why show up?
He's still doing it, by the way.
I guess there's a big drag race going on this weekend. I seen one of our listeners saying he's headed to the drag races right now. So is there a big race somewhere?
Where's their drag race this
Well,
weekend?
the NHRA opens up in the middle of March down at Gainesville, so I think they've got an all-pro shootout. Well, I'm not exactly sure where.
I'll find it here.
But they talked about Robert Height is not going to be behind the wheel of his funny car. Austin Prock is going to be driving that funny car.
Right.
Bradenton Speedway.
Bradenton,
Florida.
Bradenton.
Yep.
Just south of Tampa.
It's a big drag racing this weekend. So if you're heading down there, have fun, guys.
I think Flow Racing is carrying the live. I think Flow's
about
got
that?
the live coverage of that. I think.
Kirk.
Well, there you go.
Should I say it? I'm thinking about going to Florida.
You are.
Yeah.
We talked about that last week. So
Yep.
Don't rule it out.
Don't rule it out.
Well, if you want to get away from the weather, the rain, head that direction.
Todd's not going to be here a couple of weekends from now, so
Yeah, I'm off.
Deidre's going to fill in for you, right?
I've got a college trip for Zach, not for me, obviously, but for Zach and his girlfriend. All of us are heading up there to do the opening.
The
What is
wedding.
it? Well, that's in a couple. That's in
Hey,
March.
so
but
when is the wedding?
March, beginning of March.
March 9th?
Yep.
March
somewhere.
9th. 2 days before my birthday.
Yep. So it's getting down to it. I picked my suit up the day after the Super Bowl.
You did?
That's why I picked my suit up. It's the day after. They had actually said, "We'll have your suit on this date." And then I said, "Okay, I'll be here at 6:00." And my wife said, "That's Super Bowl Sunday. You don't want to go down there on."
Watching you walk your daughter down the aisle, Todd, is going to be. I don't know if anything's going to happen this year that's going to be bigger than that.
It's pretty.
Then we'll see.
Pretty heavy duty. And then my son will be graduating high school, and it'll all be.
You got a lot going on right now. You got a lot going on right now, don't you, bud?
A lot of oars in the fire.
Your boy's going to MU, right?
That's right. So that's what we're doing.
You're going to what they call empty nesters. That's what you.
House is going to be looking empty.
Hey, you know what, Kirk? Tony Pittman just said Larry Phillips was a guy that dominated the local motorsports scene here for a long time.
His fans had the cowbells, just ringing them in the stands.
What year did he win every race at what racetrack, Kirk? What was it?
Lakeside Speedway, 16 wins and 16 starts in 1992.
92. You were there announcing those races, right?
Announced every one of them.
Uh-huh.
And he lost only one race at I-70 that year.
Is that right?
Yep.
Crazy.
How about that?
Hey, before
Larry Phillips
before
was
we
the
go,
man.
we need to talk about the Hall of Fame, right?
Before we get out of here, enough.
The Torch Red Corvette is going to be given away at the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum this year. Z06 Corvette convertible with the Z07 performance package and a $25,000 cash to the grand prize winner. The grand prize cash option has been increased to $100,000 if you want to take the cash instead of the Corvette. But you need to get signed up for it now. Win a Z06Corvette.com. They'll draw for this the week after the Knoxville Nationals. And we've got a brand new sprint car, race-ready sprint car, going to be given away in December. It's the Triple X chassis with an Al Parker Racing 410 cubic inch engine. Go to winasprintcar.com to get signed up for that. The salute this year is going to be to Eldora Speedway at the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame when it opens up in April. They've spruced up the joint. They put new floors in, painted the walls, and got it all fixed up for the 2024 season up at the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum. Don't forget to check out the gift shop. Got a lot of great stuff, sprintcarstuff.com. And better yet, when you're up there in the Hall of Fame, just go through the gift shop. Got a lot of great stuff up there. So
yep, no doubt.
Open 7 days a week. They weren't open during the Chili Bowl.
SprintCarStuff.com, right?
Yeah.
SprintCarStuff.com.
They weren't open during the Chili Bowl because they were doing all this remodeling stuff, but they're open 7 days a week. So can't wait to get up there and check out they always keep changing the displays in the Hall of Fame.
I've got a ton of national Hall of Fame T-shirts. I've got a ton of them up there, Kurt.
Yeah.
You probably don't have any of them, do you?
No. Not enough. I've got a couple of them, but not enough.
You
Not as much you do.
Rarely does Kirk wear a T-shirt.
Rarely.
Yeah, I've seen Kirk wear a T-shirt at night when he gets in and out of the show. When we used to room at the Chili Bowl,
right?
He put on his.
I wear T-shirts around the house, at home, and
we
stuff.
all do.
Doing the walking workouts and stuff like that.
I'm sporting my new. You see my new Chiefs shirt that I forgot I even had. My daughter got this for me for Christmas last year, and I forgot I even had it. So this is the first day I wore my nice Chiefs fancy shirt. Normally they're just red. This thing's
right.
Do you get superstitious wearing shirts on game day and
yeah,
stuff?
Hey,
Todd doesn't wear.
Kirk, none
Chiefs
bigger in winning championships than Ernie Durr.
There you go. I remember Ernie Durr won a lot of races back in the day.
He won some races out at I-70 Speedway when it was pavement too.
I saw him win some Hawkeye fraternity races up there at the fairgrounds in Des Moines back in the day.
Yep.
The Dodge. He was a Dodge guy, wasn't he?
Yep, he was. He was a Dodge guy. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in to Track Talk here this morning. We appreciate you doing so. Don't forget now, on Monday, we've got Robert Ballou and Hunter Schoenberg is going to be our guest on Mostly Motorsports on Monday. So we hope that you guys will come back and enjoy that show with us as well. Kirk, you got anything to add?
No, just looking forward to watching the late models at All Tech Speedway tonight. Sprint cars. I'm not sure if there's any video of that tonight at Hendry County Speedway, but I know they've got late models at Screven. And Sunday, the All-Star race out at the Coliseum in California. Maybe. I don't know. The weather doesn't look very good at that, so
right.
That's what we got going this weekend.
All right, thanks, everybody. I want to thank Todd Surprise for doing all the hard work he does with us here on Track Talk and mostly Motorsports. Got the hiccups. So anyway, I want to thank Todd for doing everything that he does for us here at RBN, the Racing Boys Broadcasting Network, and also my partner, Kirk Elliott. And again, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, on Monday, Robert Ballou and Hunter Schoenberg will be on Mostly Motorsports. We'll see you on Monday on Mostly Motorsports. We'll see you then.
Go harder, faster, stronger with Rod End Supply. Whether you are running industrial, farming equipment, or a race car, Rod End Supply has the assortment of rod ends, radius rods, and specialty products that will help you lead the field in performance. Our superior design means our rod ends last longer and perform better, giving you the edge on the track and saving you money. Contact Rod End Supply or order online today at rodendsupply.com. We don't just sell them, we race them. rodendsupply.com. Serving the racing community for over 30 years.
Vamos,